Welcome to Rock Music History Lesson. I'm KW Key. Today, the story behind the song Sittin' on the Dock of the Bay by Otis Redding. Coming up on Rock Music History Lesson. You know, only a few performers have reached #1 with a single after their deaths. John Lennon and Janis Joplin, for example. But the first person to do it in the U.S. was the dynamic Otis Redding. Redding died in a plane crash on December 10, 1967 in Lake Monona in Madison, Wisconsin. He was only 26 years old. Also killed 4 members of his backing band, the Bar-Kays, an assistant, and the pilot. Ben Cauley, the Bar-Kays' 20-year-old trumpet player and singer, was the only one of 8 people on board to survive the crash. So, what's the story behind the song Sittin' on the Dock of the Bay? Redding played the Monterey Pop Festival in June 1967. He knew it was a big deal, but he didn't know what the response from the crowd would be. They loved him. After the show, he flew home to his ranch in Macon, Georgia, to share some great news with his wife Zelda. He told her, "I got a new audience." Redding rested for a few weeks, and in August 1967, he returned to San Francisco to perform at a jazz club. When he was mobbed by female fans at his hotel, the promoter Bill Graham told him, "You can stay on my houseboat in Sausalito." Redding spent his days quietly looking at the water. He could relax and write songs. One day, he picked up his guitar and wrote a new song that began, "Sittin' in the morning sun, I'll be sittin' when the evening comes." That fall, Redding stopped touring because he required surgery to move polyps from his vocal cords. After healing from his surgery, in November 1967, Redding flew into the Memphis airport and called his friend Steve Cropper, who was the backing guitarist for Booker T and the MGs, aka the Stackhouse Band. He called Cropper to make sure he was going to be at the studio. When Redding arrived, he ran into the studio and told Cropper, "Get your gut-tar," as he pronounced it. "I got a hit." They sat and hammered out the song. Cropper added the line, "I left my home in Georgia," because he wanted to make it personal. Otis was born in Dawson and lived in Macon. Cropper says, "I wrote the second verse, wrote the bridge, helped on the third verse, and arranged it." He says ships, that's what I'm thinking. San Francisco, Frisco Bay, ships going under the Golden Gate Bridge. That was not what he was talking about. He was talking about the ferries that went across to Oakland to Sausalito. When a ferry comes to park and let people off in their cars, they kind of roll in, and when they do that, they push up a big wave on the bank. So a ferry was a ship in his mind. So they finished writing and go in to record. Redding thought it needed background, and Cropper agreed with it. The Staple Singers earlier on had been signed to Stax, and Cropper had been working with them and suggested that they be on the record, but it never happened. The whistling toward the end of the song has been the subject of a lot of discussion. Cropper says he left space at the end of the song for Redding to add extra vocals in case he wanted to do it at a later date. During this session, Redding forgot what he wanted to sing and whistled instead. Engineer Ron Capone said jokingly he wasn't going to make it as a whistler. After 3 takes, he nailed it. Later, gossip started whirling that Redding's whistling wasn't sufficient and that Cropper hired musician Sam Bluesman Taylor to do a stronger take. Cropper denies that and says, "I don't even know where that story came from." Sittin' on the Dock of the Bay was recorded 2 weeks before Otis's death. Cropper played acoustic guitar on the session, but Otis never heard the electric guitar because Cropper overdubbed it on a Friday afternoon and Redding died in the plane crash Sunday morning. Plus, he never heard the ocean waves and the seagulls on the record. After Redding's death, Cropper gets a call from Atlantic Records saying they had to have a record to release immediately. Cropper told the record executive, "We don't have anything that's finished. Everything is raw and in the can." Atlantic Records insisted. So Cropper, even though had a difficult time doing the final mix on the track because of Otis's death, decided to release Sittin' on the Dock of the Bay. About 3 months later, on March 16, 1968, Sittin' on the Dock of the Bay reached #1 on the Billboard charts and became Redding's posthumous signature song. Hey, thanks for watching Rock Music History Lesson. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. No, I mean really, hit that subscribe button. Also, check us out at our website, rockmusichhistorylesson.com. I'm K.W. Keene.